I would like to talk about why I think Batman slash Bruce Wayne is one of the greatest written fictional characters of all time.
Oh, we might have a little bit of some disagreement in this one.
And why don't we start right there? What's your disagreement with that? Or we treat this as a debate. There you go. I'll bring my points. You can counter them.
Yeah, you can start it off because I want to hear what you got to say on this one.
Well, I think at least in the superhero, I would expand it to all fictional characters because I think he is that good. But I think at least in the superhero genre, when it comes to characters like that, he is the only one I can think of that has such a vast, well-written, I guess just, I don't know what the word is, but like just all the lore, the history, everything there that surrounds the character and about the character is so vast and expansive that you can do things like, for example, the TV show Gotham, which is it's all about everything surrounding Batman, does not have him in it until the very last episode. And to me, that goes to show how good it is things like that. I mean, can you imagine, I don't even think that would work with Superman. Can you see a Metropolis show?
No.
Can you see a Spider, or what's that New York show without
I think
Spider-Man?
The point you're making is very different than Batman being one of the greatest written characters. I think you're talking about his mythos, just having
that's
so
what
much
I said in general. In general, him and everything around him. That's why I think. I say, like, you have all this stuff in little, circles, their own little sections, but circling all of it is Batman. It's the overall thing. Not DC, not, whatever. It's just Batman. But yeah.
I think Batman's biggest strength is the amount that he has to work with, but not all that he has to work with is well written, is the thing. I am a firm believer in the philosophy that you can make anything work. You can make anything good.
Yeah.
And that's why Batman
say that.
Has so much quality stuff, because, you can make anything work. And so many people have written Batman over time. It's just kind of natural that he'd have some good. But there's a lot of not good with Batman as well. And a lot of inconsistent characterization. And a lot of kind of different ways to interpret the character, and that's kind of why I can't see him as a standalone character being one of the best written. I agree that he is very iconic and that his mythos is lots of storytelling potential, but Batman himself has been characterized as a paranoid detective. He's been kind of just super obsessive with his work. He's been paranoid, or he's been characterized as uncaring and unfeeling towards the people he works with. And other times he's been characterized completely differently.
Yeah, so I won't disagree entirely with that, but I will counter on the point of Batman alone being well written of all time. I'm still pretty sure he is the most popular superhero in the world. And I would like to ask you why you think that is.
I don't think that has solely to do with writing, because I think a large draw of Batman is the villains. Everybody loves a good villain, and Batman has a lot of them. And since Batman has so many good villains that all play off of Batman, it doesn't necessarily matter how the villains are written, because you could write them, as however you want, basically. Just look at how many different versions of the Joker there are.
Yeah.
It's more so that you have this huge sandbox to work with.
Well, I am like 99% sure the reason that he is the most popular superhero is because he is human and does not have superpowers, which makes him the most relatable person to the average, reader.
Counterpoint, he's a billionaire. That you're talking about Spider-Man. This is Bruce Wayne.
Spider-Man has superpowers, and I think a millionaire or billionaire is more, in this case, more relatable than someone like Thor or even Iron Man, who's also a human. But the fact that he has a super suit, I think, detracts from his relatableness that would put Batman ahead of him.
Well, Iron Man also is like a genius billionaire playboy who's also meant to be slightly unlikable. So,
which in many versions is also Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, but Bruce Wayne is never meant to be unlikable. He's only meant to be more serious, is the thing.
Yeah, but also in the case of, I think, you're probably referring to mostly the MCU portrayal of Tony Stark. They did that. Most of the time they did that because they were planning already a conflict between him and Captain America, who have that kind of stuff. But that's a little off topic.
Yeah, I think just when it comes down to it, with Batman, you can have so many different ways to work with the character. Not all of them are going to be well written, and since there's so many ways to write Batman, like look at The Dark Knight, for example, right? People tout that as the best Batman movie, but is it really? It's a movie that's dominated by Joker and Harvey Dent. It's not
it's the
great
best
Batman movie.
It's a very good Batman movie. It's an excellent film, but I think there are better ways to do an actual Batman story, because it's not the best, character study of Batman. There's been better, I think. I think the newest one is actually better in that regard, and there are better animated versions. But the other point I wanted to make is, before I get to the villains, is the opposite side of that, which is his the Bat family.
Yeah.
His allies that he has. All of them again contribute to his character, and that's why they are all equally well written. Not all of them are as deep as Batman. Some are have more depth than others, but they all have a purpose to why they are the way that they are, and they each have a strength to a different version of Batman. So just to kind of go over the history here, is typically how the Batman character will go if you combine all the different versions and look at them, beginning to end. Is he will start out young and reckless, and eventually he'll learn how to be a detective. He'll get into his own as Batman, and then right when he starts settling in, that's when he meets Dick Grayson, who also loses his parents, and he takes him in because he relates to that tragedy, and he doesn't want to see him. Part of it is he doesn't want to see an orphan just like him go through that, but at the same time he's trying to fix the mistake. He wants to get justice for him and give him what he didn't get. He's trying to fix what happened to him, more or less. So then, taking a break from him, we look at Grayson. He grows up, he becomes Robin, the first Robin, his sidekick, and his whole time being Robin, he's looking up to Batman, right? Both as Batman and Bruce, and he wants to become him eventually. He wants to be just like him. So then later, in his, their time as Batman and Robin, Batman starts losing a part of him that is more about his mission. His mission changes from protecting Gotham to stopping criminals, I guess, is probably the best way to put it. And so that's when he becomes darker, and he becomes, less, I don't know the right way to put it, but basically just darker, more violent, more brooding, all that. And then that's when Grayson realizes he doesn't want to be like him anymore, and he ends up leaving and becomes Nightwing on his own, being his own hero, his own version of himself, right? And I think that is the most important character that is in, Batman's circle.
Well, Nightwing is literally one of the top 5 most popular superheroes in the world. Yeah.
Which I'm not entirely sure why. Not that I disagree, but I just think it's very interesting, because I would assume not a lot of people actually know all of that about him and his connection to Batman, so I doubt that's the reason. So I don't know.
Well, I think one of the big things with that just is Nightwing is kind of the story of coming out from under the shadow of the Great.
Yeah. It's a two-part. You have him coming out of the shadow, and then also the fall of the hero a bit. You know?
Yeah, I get that. I really like the Bat family. I think it's one of the best parts of Batman is the fact that he has like this team that he can work with, but he can also not work with. But I think one of the biggest things with the Bat family is you kind of have to balance them. You can't have too many people around, otherwise it's
right. Which is why there's like 4 Robins. You have Batgirl in there, and a couple other people.
That's like so many people.
You never see them all. That's the thing, and that's part of the reason why I think he's so well written is because there's so much for you to work with. You pick and choose the pieces you want, and the pieces fit together interestingly with other pieces. So if you combine multiple different pieces, you get something different every time. And I can't think of any other superhero that has anything like that, anything close.
I don't know. Here's a really weird comparison, but compare this to the smithing templates that were just added to Minecraft, right? You have a billion different combinations, right? You have a billion different combinations. You can do so much with them. You can make things look super great or super ugly, right? But you have to put in work to get them. And a lot of people aren't going to put in the work. They're just going to wear the base armor, and they're not going to make anything special, and they're not going to make anything creative. Maybe it'll work on a base level, but it won't be unique, and it won't be well done.
That comes down to the individual writing of each thing, right? If one
exactly,
movie, but that's not overall. The character pieces are set the right way. If you don't put them in the right way, that's your fault. That's not the piece's fault.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that he's always well written. It means they have potential. But you can say everything has potential.
Well, I think the base writing makes them have the highest amount of potential, which again comes back to the writing. So I'd say my point still stands. And it also, I also don't fault if they do an animated movie that has like 2 characters that just don't work together, or they wrote them poorly. I wouldn't say that those characters are now just terrible, forever terrible. They were terrible in that version because they were used horribly. But I don't fault that. And it's also subjective, right? Some people will like it, some people won't. Just like your armor trims.
Yeah.
You might think, pink and red looks terrible, but someone might think that's the best combination in the game.
Yeah.
So I understand what you're saying. I think mainly it is subjective though, but I think my point about the pieces still being like really well written and designed to work with other pieces still stands.
I suppose it could just be a difference in what we prioritize in saying that something is well written, because a well written character to me is a specific iteration of that character. It is not a character overall for all time.
Well, that's the thing is, I don't think there is a definite version of Batman, so that's why I can't really go that route. But it's when you combine all the different versions. Look at all, because usually each version of them will highlight 1 or 2 like specific characteristics of his personality, and go with that. But if you combine them all, then he becomes extremely dynamic, and he's got a lot going on there. And it's like what I described with the Robin thing and all the other Robins. You're never going to see that in one continuity, one version, because it doesn't exist. One version that has all 4 Robins interacting with Batman does not exist. But yes, I think that would be cool. Maybe it'd be very hard to pull off because that's a lot. But the point is, it's just they all work. And then, there's more examples like, Damian Damien's Robin being the son of Batman, that's like a connection that he's never had before. And also how Grayson comes back once he's Nightwing and interacts with Damien is very interesting. It's kind of like a repeat of the Batman and Grayson relationship there. So
it's almost like an inverse, because unlike Grayson, who wanted to be like better, Damien is kind of more on the extreme end.
Yeah, and he's already on the dark side there.
Yeah.
So Grayson's the one pulling him to the light, because, you know, Bruce is trying, but he doesn't really care. You know, he's like, he kind of just says, like, no, don't do that.
Well, he doesn't get it the way that Grayson does, but...
Yeah, it's like he's telling him no, but he doesn't have a good excuse why he shouldn't do it. It's kind of like that.
But then again, you have some things like Injustice where, you know, Damien throws a stick at Grayson and kills him. So
yeah, that's the extreme part where he doesn't listen.
See, that's the kind of thing we're talking about, where it can be really stupidly written.
Yeah.
And you...
So I like I like what they, in that specific example, I like the idea of it. I think the execution could have been a lot better. Just the idea of him getting hit in the head with a stick and he dies. It's like, do you know how much these people get punched around? Are you serious? Yeah, I always thought that was whatever, but I like the idea of the guilt that he has to face killing Nightwing. But yeah. So now I guess we can talk about, I mean, there's other people that like he's friends with, like his interactions with Superman. Oh, I guess we could do Justice League later, but like Alfred, all that kind of stuff. Jason Todd, his ultimate fail, all that kind of things. It's things you don't see in any other superhero. Even, you know, Superman, who's older, doesn't have anything like this. Iron Man and Spider-Man, who are the popular on the other team, they don't.
Iron Man's only popular in the MCU.
Yeah, but and then this is where we get to the villains, which is his biggest strength and everyone else's biggest weakness. Is somehow every other superhero in history has like 1 to 3 really good or known villains. Batman has like 20 at least. It's kind of ridiculous. And this is why I think, again, all of these point to how the animated series ended up being like one of the best shows of all time. You know, or at least most people consider it one of the best shows of all time.
It's one of the best superhero shows, certainly.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the top 10 of all time, I think, on IMDb, and it's certainly the best superhero show of all time, most people would say. But is you have episodes like that, each one has a different villain, and each one is good. It's like if they tried to do this with any other superhero, and they have, I've watched the Superman animated series, it's not the same. You don't care about him fighting, you know, Metallo for the 3rd time, because Metallo is just a robot with kryptonite, with his weakness. How interesting can that get? Right? You have, in Batman's world, you have people like Scarecrow, where Batman's whole thing is inflicting fear against his you know, enemies, and Scarecrow's over here inflicting fear on Batman and making him face the stuff that he was just ignoring or like trying to get over. It's like, all this. That's again the good writing. Batman's character is set up a certain way where things like that can happen.
But then you get versions of Scarecrow, like again in the Nolan trilogy.
That was, I would say, underutilized. Not bad, but underutilized.
Yeah, but again, it's just the thing of writing is, yes, all these things have potential, but
again, I wouldn't fault that to the original and idea.
The concept.
It was the intention of the character was to be a certain way. I think that's what matters, right? What's his name? I don't know. Just if one character is written a certain way in the comics originally and it's like amazing, and then 3 animated movies come out and he's done horribly in it, I don't think that character's terrible. I think he's been done terribly. But it's like you said at the beginning, characters always have the potential to be good.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's like every single Batman villain, for the most part, is not only a good villain, is threatening, is interesting, but has that extra bonus of playing to Batman himself as either a hero or somehow unknowingly affecting like the Bruce Wayne part, like Scarecrow does. So again, compared to any other superhero, you pick anyone you want, no one comes close to any of these things.
I agree with that. Yeah. No, that's kind of just undisputable fact.
Right. So I think there might be another one, but the last big one is the location.
Gotham City.
Gotham City plays to him. I've said this before. I think in, again, all of superhero, and even only in some of the very best movies I've seen, is the setting a character. And in the best versions of Batman, when he's in Gotham City itself is a character. And I think that is true in the newest version, the Robert Pattinson movie that came out last year.
Yeah.
I think that's part of it, and that just plays even more to his strengths. Is he has all these things. So in a typical Batman episode or movie, you have three things all working together, and they were written to do so. Is Batman himself, the villain, and then the city. And if you do it right, all those things are working together to make the best possible story. Again, I ask you, any other superhero, do they have a city that you can call a character?
No, not really. No.
Nope. Doesn't help that Marvel puts everyone in New York. Like, that's supposed to help. But
see, I think that just fundamentally Batman is the best superhero for a reason, but there's also always the point to make that, you know, just because a character has the potential to be good or has good iterations does not make the character great overall.
I would still argue in this case it does. That is my opinion based on all of the facts I've presented here today.
Yeah.
And that is all you can really ask for, right?
Yeah. Of course, I think, you know, the character of Batman has great iterations and will have great iterations in the future. I guess what the point I'm trying to make isn't so much that Batman isn't a good character, it's more so that there's always something that can change how you view the character, and that might not be for the best.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people always bring up, like, oh, the sidekick thing, where Batman's kind of like hiring children to fight his battles.
I always said that's one of the greatest strengths of the character, and that's why I like him. That's part of the reason I like him so much. I would even go as far to say that I like Dick Grayson's Robin even more than Batman. I think he's actually my favorite superhero. But again, it doesn't really work without Batman. That's why I like him so much. It's probably because of what he does to Batman. But, you know, there's debate there. There's different ways you can look at it. I think at the end of this, we can agree he is a very well-written character, and all the stuff surrounding him is equally well-written. Right?
I think the amount of detail that has gone into it is unlike anything else. Honestly, like, the only thing that comes close is Star Wars, of all things, because of just how much there is the detail in the little things.
It's the little things that make the difference. That is more so there, but it's still the interconnectivity that is present in both, which goes a long way. And, you know, it can be other topics for other times. You know, Marvel, I think, took that too far. They missed the point of that. But it's there. And also, something we could talk about next time is why Zuko from Avatar is one of the greatest written characters in fiction of all time.
Yeah, but everybody knows that one already.
True, but it's also could be fun
You'll
to
never find
analyze.
anybody with a brain disagreeing with you.
Disagreeing with that. No, he's terrible. He's just a whiner. It's like
Somebody didn't watch like the show.
They watched the first episode and saw.
Even in the first episode, you can't make that point.
I know. It's like I'm pretty sure in the first episode is like motivations is clearly established, but that's another time.
Yeah.
Anything else to add there?
As always, the potential will always be there, and the potential to mess it up will be equally strong. But
That's true.
so long as they continue to make it good, then we won't have any problems, you know? Also, James Gunn, don't mess it up.
Oh, yes. But see, that is golden opportunities, that new movie, him and Damien, and if they throw Nightwing in there, we have a recipe for a 10 out of 10. It's all the pieces are there. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Will they utilize it properly?
We'll see.